want to start. You just.
By the way, that was a hell of a speech.
That was a hell of a speech.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that.
You have nothing to add?
No, in fact, I just fired my speechwriter.
Okay.
If I had one, I'd fire him.
Now, so let's start. Let's start with the current situation. Tomorrow, we're going to do a whole thing on climate change tech. I just want to start with this. You told me something disturbing backstage that I shouldn't program between 4 and 7 tonight. Yeah. You were joking.
Flex alert.
You liked it, yeah. So talk about what's happening right now with the climate.
Well, I mean, it's racing ahead of our transition to clean energy. Mother Nature, it's been said, I think Rob Watson said it better than anybody else. She bats last, she bats 1,000. She's chemistry, biology, and physics. And the reality, that extreme reality is present ubiquitously here in the state of California. Extreme drought, extreme heat, and now this prolonged extreme heat exacerbated by a mega drought all over the western United States. All of our models have been thrown out. And as a consequence, we have to disabuse ourselves that transition on the pace that was record-breaking can do justice to the moment we're living in. And so we have thrown all of the old books and rules and regulations out, and we are moving in a completely different mindset in order to stay a step ahead of Mother Nature.
How do you manage it day to day right now? Because it's a massive technological issue. There's getting people air conditioning. How does it work? Because yesterday when we were talking, all the alerts went off on people's phones.
And it worked. It was remarkable what happened. We had a razor-thin margin yesterday, almost 52,000 megawatts, unprecedented in California's history. Now you say, well, it's always been hot. The summers are hot. I watch Tucker Carlson. That's his point of view. But we've never seen this kind of extreme heat for this extended period of time. We did flex alerts, which people experience in many other states, not just here in the state of California. We started our flex alerts last Wednesday. We expected this extreme period to end. We've had heat domes in the past. August 14th and 15th of 2020 comes to mind, 48 hours, but not this kind of extended heat, record-breaking heat all over the western United States, Southwest in particular. So that's putting tremendous strain on the grid, particularly during those peak hours where the sun is going down, wind perhaps is waning, and we now are coming home from a long day of work, and everybody wants to turn on that AC. And so we've got 2 more days. We don't want to run the 90-yard dash on this. Everybody's done their job. It's been extraordinary how people have taken seriously, including that alert we put out last night, about 2,600 or so megawatts within 45 minutes of that alert coming out. It was conservation that saved us last night, some 4,000 megawatts that saved us, and imports, about 8,000 megawatts of imports, which is part and parcel of what we do naturally, that got us in the position we are today. That said, tonight we will have stress on the system, and tomorrow night into the weekend where we finally will see a cooling off period.
All right, may I ask?
Sure.
So this is not the end of the problem. When this happens 1 or more times next summer, is it going to be different, or are we going to rely on the alert system?
No, it has to be different.
Okay, so how will it be different?
It's radically different than it was in 2020. Had we not done what we've done in the last 2 years, we would have had rolling blackouts over the last week, almost without question. We added 4,000 net peak new hours of megawatts. We've 10x our battery storage, which has been a godsend and a savior. And we've moved to extend the life of some of our once-through cooling plants and old backup generators. And we've accelerated our climate policies, including, by the way, a $53.9 billion budget that I just passed in the climate space to accelerate our low-carbon green growth and our transition away from fossil fuels. I'm not interested in the death spiral that states like Texas are. They're doubling down on stupid. In February of 2021, you saw what happened in Texas for all the coal they were spewing. And by the way, so far this year in Texas, 22.9 million tons of coal they have spewed versus California's just 18,000. 22.9 million the first 5 months of this year versus our 18,000. And yet they struggled over a 3-day period. Hundreds of people lost their lives, $130 billion of economic damage. So spare me that this is about the transition. It's not about our transition, it's about the climate and the science. And the reality is much more acute than any of us could even imagine just a couple of years ago. But we're up for it. We'll get through this. and we will continue to advance and accelerate as no other state in our nation.
So this is, you're not supposed to mess with Texas, but you don't seem to have that problem.
I don't know.
I don't think so. So nearly a year after the recall, you crushed a Republican-led recall by beating your challenger 2-1. You're now ahead 2-1, I'm sorry, in the governor's race now. You have the backing of 52% of registered voters compared to 25 who favor Republican state Senator Brian Dahl. Nobody really knows who he is. I didn't know he was until I typed it here. One of the you've been very pugnacious about Texas, Florida. You seem to have a thing for Ron DeSantis. And not in a good way, not in a good San Francisco way.
No.
Someone was calling you a liberal with a left hook is what people are hungering for on the Democratic side right now. You're on Truth Social. You've made these ads. You've given money to Charlie Crist. Joe Biden seems to be copying your style right now. Walk us through why you are doing this, why you spent the money in Texas, why you're focusing on DeSantis. We'll get to the presidential stuff. I know you said sub-zero, but talk about the theory of what you're doing and strategy of what you're doing.
I couldn't take it anymore. I had to sleep at night. After DeSantis went after the Special Olympics and threatened them with $27 million in fines, I'd had enough. And that's when I decided, time to do what others did. And that's express what's really going on in state after state. We're so fixated, so consumed, I understand it, by Washington, D.C., everything D.C., 24/7, that we weren't paying attention to what's going on in states all across this country. The rights revolution that many of us took for granted is being rolled back in real time, state after state after state. Not just DeSantis, he's just better at communicating it, but in all of these other red states. The rights revolution included civil rights and voting rights and abortion rights, contraceptive rights, interracial marriage. All of that is on the line right now, and people need to wake up to that. And I wanted to express that from a position of understanding, because I don't take any of that for granted. And I've seen the demonization. I've seen that zest for othering people. I've seen that false separateness that these guys have been pushing for years and years and years, and DeSantis has taken it to a whole nother level. I mean, this notion, the idea that you could be accused of being a groomer.
No, they did that to me, but go ahead.
Accused of being a groomer, a pedophile. That was the spokesperson for Ron DeSantis, who was promoted after that. This guy is firing independently elected prosecutors. The guy sent a SWAT team at 6 in the morning to take a guy out who was in his underwear because he had the audacity to register to vote. And people just go about their day-to-day lives. Pay attention, folks, to what's going on. It's not just criminalizing abortion. So I couldn't take it. And, that's why the speech was a masterclass for me. I had not heard that speech. But I did this freedom ad on the 4th of July, talking about freedom, really? These guys are talking about freedom, free enterprise? Ask Disney about free enterprise. It's going after, it's the new CRT is ESG. In terms of, who you hire to deal with your debt or manage your pensions. That's not free enterprise. That's the Tampa Bay Rays. You can go down the list. This is a serious moment. It is about liberalism versus illiberalism. It's not just about right and left. And these guys, they're on the spectrum of authoritarianism. And that's not a hyperbolic statement. I think it's actually a mild statement. So I'm expressing myself, forgive me my long-windedness.
That's all right.
And I'm expressing it because I'm in the position you framed, where I feel I can, and I think it's important.
So again, but why you? Why as the governor of California? There's what are you messing with them? I
don't know, we're the fifth on the way to be the fourth largest economy in the world. California outperformed every other large state in GDP last year, 7.8%, the nation at 5.7%, with all due respect to Texas, 5.6%. State of California is running its highest surpluses, reserves. We had $101.4 billion operating surplus this year. Last year, 76.3. The biggest tax rebates in American history. $9.4 billion last year, another $9.5 billion this year to 17 million families. This is a state number one in factory jobs, number one in economic growth. We have more venture capital, thank you, than the next three states combined by 2x. This state, in so many ways, shapes, or form, could punch above its weight. And I figure, as the governor of the state of California has pride in this state and our values, that I'm in a position to express myself in a way that perhaps a member of Congress cannot.
Can I ask, and I appreciate all those statistics, are more people leaving California for Texas or leaving Texas for California?
Well, we lost about 182,000 folks in the last census.
But how do you explain that against the backdrop of those very remarkable statistics you just cited?
Many factors, and there's been two deep analysis that drives the number one factor. The vast majority, almost the entire amount, impacted because of the visa policies in the Trump administration. I mean, our formula for success is getting first-round draft choices around the rest of the world. I mean, we're as dumb as we want to be. This whole damn border debate is made up. It's made up. Where's Congress? Where the hell are they? They haven't done their job. Both parties, comprehensive immigration reform. No state has more to lose. More state has more to gain than the state of California, from Silicon Valley to Central Valley on that reform. So it's a combination of those factors. Yes, affordability, we own that.
Yeah.
I'm not naive about our problems, homelessness.
Taxes?
And taxes are lower than in California than they are in Texas. I'm sick and tired of this too. Sorry, it's a fact. Facts are stubborn. And maybe you get your facts on Truth Social. I'm on that platform as well.
Are you enjoying it?
How can you not enjoy Truth Social? The comments are special. They are special. By the way, my first post on Truth Social was about the fact that there's a red state murder problem. 8 of the top 10 states with the fastest growing murder rates are red states, really 9 out of 10 because Georgia's on that list. So I asked my first Truth Social, what is it about red state policies that are leading to such carnage? They said, well, now Fox had a fit on that. They couldn't take that. They said, it's, of course, just big liberal states. Then they said, it's just about big liberal cities. And I said, well, then wait a second. Why is it that Kevin McCarthy's Kern County is the murder capital of California? With twice the murder rate as Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco. Facts matter. They're stubborn. Taxes are lower in California for 99% of people. I know this is the wrong audience. All right? But either, are we, Texas the most regressive tax state, second in the latest analysis. And by the way, that's the Texas Tribune 2 weeks ago saying that, not me. Second most regressive tax state in America. So the tax facts are stubborn as well, but we live in the 1%.
From wealthy people who have left. There's been, listen, you hear Keith Raboy, he went to Florida, or all of them, they're going to go.
Made their money here, and there's 2,500 coming behind them. And I want to thank them for their contribution. I mean that. I don't begrudge people's success, quite the contrary. Remember, I come from the private sector. I've had the privilege of creating about 1,000 jobs. I came from no wealth, no real money, put together pen, paper, came up with an idea, got 17 investors, a couple $100,000, opened a little wine store, built that to 23 little businesses. I understand what P&Ls are. I understand what depreciation schedules are. I understand the stress and anxiety that we went through in the last couple of years in an intimate way. And so I say that to make the point. I admire the entrepreneurial energy of the people that have left, but I also admire those that are waiting desperately to walk in behind them. And that's the greatness of California, is this renewal, this rebirth. The 7.8% GDP bears that out. Number one in business growth bears that out. More engineers, scientists, more venture capital in any state in America bears that out. And that's our formula for success. That's what
I agree. They tend to talk a lot about California after they've left the state. And as I told you backstage, it's like talking about your old girlfriend. Stop talking about it. It's getting creepy now and that how beautiful their new girlfriend is.
Some people quite literally made their career on bashing California. Fox has built a network. Listen, you watch. I mean, the Hoover Institute. I mean, there's some of these guys. It's 24/7, and it's obvious why. I mean, Fox, conservatism can't succeed unless California fails. Because we prove them wrong over and over and over again. Let me reinforce this with some other stubborn facts. Because we talk about this freedom nonsense out there in these red states and DeSantis and everything else. It's an interesting fact. Look this up. Not only did our economy outperform Florida last year, we contracted at a more modest rate in 2020 than the state of Florida, and 52% lower per capita deaths. I used to remember when that mattered, life mattered. 52% lower per capita deaths, the state of California versus Florida in terms of how we approach the pandemic. So we have a different approach. We're not demonizing others.
Well,
We're not belittling others,
You did.
and we took
You
an
did.
approach.
Your
that's
ads
quite
were
different.
belittling. Your ads were belittling.
Well, they were
let me ask that
hard-hitting
because
in terms of DeSantis.
is the flurry of action where the differences between liberal and conservative-led parts of the country, one of the signs, someone wrote, it's a sign of consequences when the state governments are controlled increasingly by single parties. It's easy for Governor Newsom to tell struggling Alabamians, I feel your pain, but then what? Come and rent a studio apartment in San Francisco for $4,000.
Well, I'd say the Alabama example, just in case you're wondering, I thought it was important. It's your money, your money. Alabama took part of that $1.9 trillion pandemic stimulus, and they used a remarkable amount, $400 million, to open up, and they celebrated this, to open up 2 mega prisons. We used $1.9 billion of your money to open up 3.4 million child savings accounts up to $1,500 for all of our entering kindergartners this year. It's a point of contrast, it's a point of values that I think is important to express. In that context, no one's denying the one-party rule, which, by the way, is in a majority of red states, not blue states. If you look at legislative houses and gubernatorial houses with unitary control, I think it's about, don't quote me, 25 red states, 17 blue states, and 8-ish purple. So respectfully, that frame works, I understand, from both perspectives. That said, yes, affordability is a huge issue. Ask Ron DeSantis about how his eviction rates are going, affordability in Florida now. And that's our burden, and we own that, and I could regale you for literally the rest of the 13 minutes on our housing strategies and homeless strategies.
All right, let's start with
we own
crime.
that.
Why don't you start?
So, thanks.
And guns.
So you were the subject of a recall movement, which I don't think you liked. But there's some maybe I have this wrong, there's some Democratic recall movements that maybe you didn't have as much of a problem with, and I'm talking about the district attorney of San Francisco, who was recalled, and my sense is you weren't that broken up about it. Was that a good thing, that recall, or not?
David Sachs, be quiet. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's the rest of the 12 minutes on him.
Yeah. No, please don't.
Not worth it. I was mayor of San Francisco, and I hate to see what's happened to the city. I love my city, 5th generation. My kids grew up, we were born there, and God willing, I'll end up back there. I just don't like what was happening on the streets and sidewalks. I don't like what's happening on the streets and sidewalks in any part of the state. We're coming out with new housing accountability plans. We came out with a new housing accountability unit. We actually sued San Francisco 3 weeks ago because they're not producing enough housing, affordable housing. And we just required for the first time in history homeless accountability plans, of which 70% I sent back saying they're not good enough. We're not going to send you money unless you get your act together. So we're in a different phase of accountability. As it relates to recalls, no, I don't like the way they're utilized. To me, they're anti-democratic in this context, that there was an election.
But are you pleased he's out of office?
I don't know about pleased. I supported his opponent when he ran, so you get a sense of where I am. But I don't like the abuse of that process. But the city's got to get its act together across the spectrum, I say with respect and deep love for the city, and partnership, not a closed fist, but an open hand. And we're providing unprecedented resources to do just that. And they've got to focus on cleaning up the damn streets.
So talk about crime, as Preet was mentioning. How do you do? You may point to Florida and other states. Talking about crime issues and gun issues in California right now. You've put on a bill, firearms restrictions, you signed, fresh limits on firearm advertising to minors, intensified restrictions on unregistered ghost guns, 10-year ban on firearm possession of those convicted of child abuse or elder abuse. Talk a little bit about how effective this is, because crime continues to be a worry of voters.
Well, it's been wildly effective since we put in these progressive gun policies. California's gun death rate has been substantially lower than the rest of the nation, period, full stop. We're experiencing what others are experiencing all across the country, and that's a rise in gun violence in particular. And we've got to do more and do better. One of the things we just did as an example, and this is not the solution, it's part of a package of reforms we advanced this year, but I want to illuminate you because I think it's important so you know what's going on. There's a manufacturer that sells not AR-15s, but JR-15s, junior AR-15s, actual weapons, in order to create muscle memory for 2, 3, 4-year-olds. They advertise it with skull and bones, his and hers, with a blue pacifier and a pink pacifier. That's how they market their product. It's sick. These people are sick. So yes, in passing, you referenced that we banned the marketing to children of these kinds of weapons of war, and I'm proud of California's leadership in this space. No state in America has done more in terms of progressive gun policy. Now let's go to the issue of crime. It was a top issue when I was mayor. No one's naive. I've never been part of that defund the police movement, ever, period. We added 1,000. We just budgeted for 1,000 new CHP officers. We did over a $355 million crime package, providing for vertical prosecution, supporting our DAs and investigation, not just supporting grants at the local level. We put together a retail crime task force, and it's actually led to arrests and more coordination and collaboration than we've seen in the past. We're taking this very, very seriously. But I will note, the new crime numbers just came out, and I think this is important for Fox News. It's important for One American News. It's important for Newsmax. It's important for the anger machine and the surround sound and the feedback loop on the right. It's an interesting fact, and we own this, and we've got to do more and do better. But we just came out with this, the areas of California with the highest crime rates. All of them were in red counties, with red conservative supervisors, sheriffs, DAs, tough on crime. I wasn't making that up about Kevin McCarthy's district being the murder capital of California for 2 years running. They need our support, they need our help, and those resources are available to them. It's complicated, and we're all working through this. We're not trying to scapegoat this or scapegoat other people. We're taking accountability, taking responsibility, and pushing back against the mis and disinformation from the right.
I think that's all correct. Something that Kara was asking about before with respect to the rhetoric, and some people call it tit for tat. Someone says something stupid in another state, you say something back, and it's clever in your Truth Social, and I actually think that that's fine. And I think this is also fine, but I'm wondering if you might explain, one of the bills you signed seems to have been a parallel to the abortion bill in Texas, SB 8. Yep. So you created sort of a bounty law with respect to guns. Yep. Is that legislatively effective, or is that to make a tit-for-tat point?
No, it's to, if they can use, I mean, the bounties that they put forward, the private right of action, the bounties that Abbott put into place as it relates to restricting abortion rights, the door that was opened up by the United States Supreme Court, if he can use that to put women's lives at risk, we're going to use it to save people's lives in the state of California. So we modeled that bill to the letter, tagged there at U.S. Supreme Court, to allow people the private right of action to get illegal guns off the streets, illegal guns off the streets, illegal weapons of war and ghost guns and the like. Is it effective? It doesn't go into effect till January.
Right, and there is the challenge that there is a Second Amendment and not a right to an abortion.
Yeah, well, here we go. I mean, the selectivity of this court, the politicalization of this court, what they did the last session is so jaw-dropping and extraordinary, and of course it's changed our politics, but more damaging, it's changed our lives and the lives of women and girls all across this country, and I think it's a disgrace, and we need to call them out, and we need to stand tall, and so that's the point. It's not tit for tat. It's wake up to the world you're living in, not the world. I'm happy to hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, talk about the way the world is. You know, I've done a little of that. Pass a resolution urging you to get better and do better. Meanwhile, these guys are rolling back rights in real time, banning books at historic levels. You can't make this stuff up. How many books does Ron DeSantis need to ban for you to wake up to your friends and family that are sending him money? This is a serious moment, and we've got to meet that moment, and that's what this is, an expression of desire to be counted at this moment.
Let me ask about abortion. You're preparing to spend $20 million to bring women from other states. You had previously restricted money in the state's abortion practical support fund for in-state travel only, and you said we have to be realistic about what we can absorb. Many people wanted you to do more because you had vowed to make California a sanctuary. How do you look at California? Are you not spending enough on that? If you're going to make these grand pronouncements, you kind of have to, you're going to be the abortion sanctuary.
Yeah, we are. I mean, my gosh, we put $200 million in the budget this year. We got rid of co-pays. We have don't ask, don't tell in terms of abortion access in the state of California. There's 33.6 million, plus or minus, reproductive age women and girls in these roughly 26 states that are likely to restrict abortion. One has to be pragmatic about absorbing even a small percentage in terms of getting their reproductive care in the state of California. But no state has come close to those contributions. But moreover, I've got an initiative that I put on the ballot with legislative leaders, Prop 1, to codify in the Constitution, one of just 2 states or 3, that has something on the ballot this year to be for, to codify our reproductive freedoms in the state of California. I'm very proud of that as well. So I think we stood up, I think we are pushing back, and I think we're substantively doing things, I know this, that no other state's doing at the scale we're doing.
What more could you be doing? Because a lot of abortion activists want you to do even more.
Well, we'll continue. I work with them. They've been leaders. We've been working together hand in glove, and we'll continue to do more. It's iterative. It's not the end. We're not walking away from more responsibility. And I'll be expressing myself in some of these other states soon as well, in terms of making sure that they recognize they have access and opportunity in California.
Expressing yourself, meaning you can come here.
We've done that, and I'll keep doing that.
Have you done that on True Social yet? Have you
We've done a lot on True Social.
But you're informing them that this is going to continue this.
Well, we're doing it here, doing it everywhere we can.
So
Can I ask one rhetorical question about rhetoric, not a rhetorical question, that comes to mind from the discussion we've been having? Would you reformulate Michelle Obama's famous line, when they go low, we...
Yeah, go high. The world we want to live in, the world we should aspire to, but you got to be hard-headed pragmatists in the world we're actually in at the moment. Politics has radically changed the last few years. I mean, there's a ruthlessness to the right now. And by the way, don't think I married a big Republican family. I have reverence for moderate conservatives. It's not about that. This is a whole different thing that we're experiencing now, completely different thing. And it's something I never experienced in my lifetime. Now, we have had sort of periodic moments where what's being expressed today was expressed in 1994 with Prop 187, where the Don't Say Gay bill was expressed in the Briggs Initiative out here in the 70s. So in many ways, some of these are golden oldies, but not at the scale and at the intensity of what we're experiencing. So yeah, I'd recalibrate that for the moment, but
will you finish the phrase?
Inspired by her sense of idealism.
all right, so when they go low,
We do what we need to do to protect people. I don't like bullies. I don't like people talking down to other people, talking past other people. I don't like people just because they look different, think different. I mean, you've got a bill in Ohio that allows people to actually inspect their genitalia. It passed the Republican legislature just to make sure a girl or boy is of the appropriate sex before high school sports. What the hell's going on in this country? I mean, demonizing the LGBTQ community? I mean, I remember when businesses stood up in 2016 in the bathroom bill in North Carolina. They didn't put their name on a piece of paper. They sued 70 businesses. Many of you sued to stop that, and they did. Now we seem to be rolling over. Disney's still sending 2,000 jobs, I guess, celebrating Ron DeSantis' approach to their expression of free speech. By the way, your expression of free speech includes the private boardrooms in Florida as well, if you haven't paid attention, in terms of what you can say on race and gender, not just in terms of what's happening in the classroom and whether or not you can wear a lanyard or put a picture of your wife or husband.
what is your
in his
message then to
classroom.
companies here in California?
Wake up or express yourself differently. If you really believe that these are the values you hold dear and you're not pushing back, then don't express them, because you're expressing hypocrisy. Just don't express them. What I hate is just rank hypocrisy, saying one thing and doing another. If it's just about money, just say it. You know what? We don't really care. It's just about money. Now, we have to kind of care because our workforce really cares and we can't get the talent. But we really don't care because, damn, that tax break really went to the bottom line. We could do a stock buyback and we just ginned our bonuses up. I don't know. But just don't be a hypocrite. Just be honest. That's all I'm asking.
Let me ask about two more things. One is cars. I wish they would say it's just about the money, too. Cars and climate. You drew national praise when you unveiled the 2020 order requiring all vehicles sold in California to be electric by 2035. And yet some people are questioning your opposition to Proposition 30, which would tax the rich to help pay for them.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this ban on gas cars. How can you require it when just a week this week, people were told not to use electric cars. Or to, or to
Prop 30 is
charge
a solution and a problem, and it's another tax increase in the state of California. You may notice I haven't promoted tax increases in the state of California. We're balancing budgets, paying down $19.7 billion in pension, highest reserves, using one-time surpluses for one-time investments, overwhelmingly 90+%. I'm not one of those profligate Democrats. You don't have to be profligate to be progressive. Prop 30 is a mistake. I hope you vote no. On that front, I hope you embrace our efforts to transition to the future. We want to dominate in the great next global industry. And we want to change the way we produce and consume energy. And we're in the midst of that transition, and we have to stay a step ahead of Mother Nature. And that's why we were the first state in America to codify this 2035 goal as it relates to electric vehicles. And that's exciting. Bill Ford gets it, GM gets it. It's not just Tesla that gets it, it's all these other companies. And we want to dominate in the manufacturing and the export and the opportunities and the innovation, the software components that all come from it. So many of you have literally invented that world. Thank you. And we want to invest in you, and we want you to invest in us, putting unprecedented tax breaks.
How do you plan?
Private sector's doing that. They're already leaning into this direction.
So you don't need to tax them.
We just put $10 billion up for electric vehicle infrastructure. We just passed a $53.9 billion, as I mentioned, climate package. That's bigger probably than any other nation in the world outside of what the US just did, and maybe China. We are doubling, not doubling, we're 10xing what we've done in the past, and we're promoting through policy the acceleration of this technology, and that's how we do it.
The one worry people have is this economy could go south for you. You're losing some cap gains as they move to Florida to save the money. There's obviously inflationary issues. What is your biggest worry? You have a surplus now, but it could easily turn.
It's already, we're seeing a $4 billion. You'll see it in our August numbers. We're not naive about that. Paying attention to markets and Fed and inflation and all of that. No one's naive. That's why we've sacked away more money, and we have more discretion than we've ever had in terms of flexibility, and that's well beyond our reserves. As it relates to tax policy, that's why, I mean, if you're out there promoting Prop 30, you're promoting another income tax for high-income earners. It goes to your question around the concern for folks, but we're investing in our growth engines, research and development, pushing out the boundaries of discovery,
So are you
promoting
worried about the
that
economy,
innovation
though,
across the
affecting
spectrum.
this ability to do this ambitious agenda?
Quite the contrary. You set the goals, the policy, the investment in the capital come. Tesla is a proof point of that. Tesla's success was the regulatory environment of California. Without the regulations to accelerate and promote the technology, Elon Musk would not be allegedly the richest man in the world.
Well, he's in Texas now.
Well, he's in Texas now, but 35,000 employees are in California, and they're increasing production by 50% in Fremont, and they just opened a new battery facility in Lathrop, and we've got 100 others that want to be the next Tesla, and watch your back, Tesla. The world you invented is about to compete against you across the spectrum, and we have dozens of manufacturing companies, and a few years ago was one of our top 3 or 4 exports in California, electric vehicles. So we are investing and doubling down in that space in pretty extraordinary and exciting ways.
Worried about,
others are interested in
So you're not worried
regression.
about recession and the ability not to have that deficit?
I'm interested in investing in the future so we do well there. I'm not interested in the failed policies of the past. I'm not trying to recreate the 19th century or even the 20th century. We were some of the greatest entrepreneurs in here, John Doerr and others. I mean, we're on the cusp of a new era. I'm not interested in regressive and dark policies of the past. Texas is a perfect proof point of what we are not, proudly so, in terms of accelerating this transition.
Okay.
So no, quite the contrary. Yes, modest recession, yes, some budgetary stress, but the resiliency that is California is legendary. And we want to invest in that.
So
and we want to invest in the
maybe
future.
I'm mistaking your tone right here, but you feel like you're running for president.
No.
Not 2024, 2028.
Not 2030, not 2090.
You are never running for president.
I have no interest, zero, period.
Can I ask a different way?
Why? Just because you talk about other,
you seem rather out there, that's
I'm
all.
passionate about this state and our values, and I'm passionate. I'm sick and tired of taking it on the chin. You mentioned some guy does it 24/7. And these guys, again, they're kind of pros, attacking California and everything we're about and our values. It's a special place. You heard Anand talk about pluralism. That's a word no one talks about anymore. This ability to live and advance together across differences, a majority-minority state where we are living and advancing together across many differences, where America's common attraction, future in every way, shape, or form happens here at Code and California first. And that's why we are investing in the future in ways that we think can future-proof this state against the vagaries of the old economy as we transition into this new and more exciting, clean and green
Again,
economy.
sounds like a national platform.
It's a California platform.
Okay. All right.
And
can I-
it
can I-
should
can
be
I
a
ask it-
national
Okay, and then we'll
platform,
get to
but it's a
questions.
California platform.
Can I ask it this way as a hypothetical? So you've said the likelihood
Rhetorical
of your...
and a hypothetical.
Yes, that's what I do now. You've said that the chances that you will run for president are sub-zero.
In
Sub-zero.
2024.
I've said it in French, German, and Italian.
Right, so I don't know
how
if
else to
that
say
the
it.
sub-zero thing was a dig at Nancy Pelosi or not.
No,
but
why? Has she
there's
got a
the
sub-zero
sub-zeros,
refrigerator or
yeah.
something? I don't
But if you were going to run for president, would you rather be the governor of California or the vice president of the United States?
Oh, governor of California is the greatest job in the world. I mean, it's not only the fifth largest economy in the world, but you have capacity and authority to move needle. I mean, look what we just did in terms of this 2035 goal. We've moved markets internationally. Look at what we just did in this climate package last week. We are moving markets internationally and globally.
said
What
vice
other state can do that? So, governor of California.
Better
let me
than
reinforce.
president of the United States.
These are wonderful distinctions. I'm not even interested in those distinctions. Proud to be governor of California, and I hope I get my job extended in the next few months, God be willing.
You seem to be. All right, questions from the audience. Let's go.
Governor, first, thank you.
Sweet.
What can I say?
I appreciate it.
Inspiration.
That should be the last question.
I mean-
Fantastic. Yeah.
Right. I'm not a journalist,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to ask you a journalistic question, but I have a few of them. One, why not run for president? I don't understand why. I'm a citizen. You are an incredibly passionate, public servant. You're saying that we're in a time of crisis.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you run for president? Why wouldn't you take on the job that we need in order to actually change something fundamental in this country at a time of incredible crisis? That's one question. You're going to have an...
Okay, quick, because we want to get to everyone else. We only
Yeah,
have
but I got three of them.
Okay.
And I think they're all relevant and super
Short.
important. So one is, why not run for
Got it.
president when it's such an important moment? Number two, your pain is palpable, and it reflects many people's pain. And yet, more than 60 million people voted for Trump.
70.
70.
yeah.
Sorry, 70 I was trying to remember. How do you explain that?
Yeah.
How do you explain that? And then how do you build a bridge to at least convince a certain number of those people, not with anger, because obviously anger is what they're after, but with some kind of logic or rationale or love?
Okay.
Those
Go
are the
ahead.
three
Answer
questions.
Let me answer the latter question as I try to answer the former. One of the things I'm most excited about, I mean this, I think it's October 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in there. I'm launching something called College Corps. It is as large or larger than the Peace Corps, just in the state of California. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Californians from every conceivable walk of life, in red counties, blue counties, that all share in common the same values of wanting to be protected, respected, connected, are going to contribute 450 hours in volunteer service, and in return getting $10,000 college grant from the state of California. I say that to say this: we need compulsory service in the United States of America. I think it is foundational. I think it is the only antidote to the fear, anxiety, outside of all these episodic efforts we try to push back on. We need to have shared experiences. We need to understand we all want to be loved and need to be loved. There are some universal values and truths that are so foundational. So we're going to try to advance that at scale here in the state of California. But I believe foundationally That's at the core of what this nation needs to heal, and that's what we'll be promoting here in California.
Okay, that sounds like a presidential address. Okay.
But
does.
it
You
didn't
just
an-
really do,
but
like a
didn't
lot.
answer the
No,
question,
like-
why not run for president?
Why not?
No, we said it. I have reverence for the President of the United States. I do. And I say that passionately and with intention. I think it's one of the great comeback stories, what he's been able to achieve just in the last few months. One of the great American comeback stories, what he's able to achieve in the last few months. And I hope he runs again. And if he does, Donald Trump will be in the ash bin of history.
All right, next.
Rick Cutter with Cloud for Utilities. Thank you for being here. The recent action you made with Diablo Canyon, I applaud you for that.
Yeah,
I think it generates 6% of our energy here in California.
higher.
Does that move signal a resurgence in nuclear energy here?
gonna ask that.
And also, how are we doing with 2050 Paris Agreement? It seems like a long way off, but it's going to come fast.
Yeah, and that's why we just accelerated all our climate ambition, and that's why we put $54 billion in the budget to actually make it so, and send signals to the private sector so you understand, regardless of what happens in 2024, whoever the next president of the United States is, California is the tentpole, the anchor in terms of a global consciousness around this global transition to green energy. And that's really important message for us to send globally, not just nationally, and to the private sector assembled here. As it relates to Diablo Canyon, what more evidence do you need than this last week as we come this close as it relates to our climate security, or rather energy security? So we've extended the life of Diablo Canyon for 5 additional years. And here's the point. I'm not going to turn that off until we fully stress test at extremes the batteries and our transition on the renewables. The worst thing that can happen to this movement is that we fail to achieve our goals and we fall short in terms of reliability and costs. And that's why Diablo is critical. It's 9% of that base load. It's about 17% of our electrical architecture. It is fully operational. We want to simply extend its life. And I'll tell you, by definition, I wouldn't have done that if I was ideologically opposed to nuclear, particularly looking at a global footprint and looking at what's happening in places like Germany, what's happening in China and elsewhere. It's foundational in terms of us getting out the other side and getting through this calamitous reality that we're now beginning to experience globally.
Okay, right here. We're going to go for a few more for people in the back. Go ahead.
Hi, Governor. I moved to LA a couple years ago. I love California. I got to say, though, the state of housing here in the state is very depressing. And I'm just curious what we can do as a state to make housing more affordable, particularly in cities like LA.
Biggest problem.
Yeah, got to get out of our own way.
Yeah.
We're as dumb as we want to be. The NIMBYism's out of control. Cities like, first thing I did when I got into office, it wasn't 20 years, it feels like literally, you've had it, I get it. You're exhausted with me as much as I am me as well. It was just a little over, it was barely 4 years ago. It's almost a little over 3.5 years ago. First thing I did literally was sue Santa Monica because they didn't even plan, let alone zone, for housing at all income levels, not just low income housing, but workforce housing, people earning 60 and 120% of AMI. The point being, we need to be more aggressive in not only setting the ambition and the goals, but holding municipalities accountable. Bobby Kennedy said this best across the spectrum. Localism is determinative. State vision is realized locally. California is the size of 21 state populations combined. So as it relates to localism, we profoundly are challenged by the determination, county by county, city by city, that is in contrast to the state vision. And so we sued the city of San Francisco a couple weeks ago. Santa Monica created this new affordable, accountability unit, the housing accountability unit, put billions of dollars, $2 billion in the last 2 years to be exact, in tax credits, revolving loan funds, and I'll be signing a landmark bill to address the time value of decision making and money as it relates to investments and the abuse of CEQA in a matter of weeks, one of the most significant changes to our zoning as it relates to housing in our state's history. And so we are all in on addressing the affordability crisis. It's the original sin And of course, the ultimate manifestation of our failure on affordability is what's happening on the streets and sidewalks.
All right, I am so sorry, we can't take questions. Andy Jassy's got to come on, he's got a time constraint. You can, I'm sorry.
I know, you get rid of me. You
No,
got
no.
Jassy. Jesus, that's why they all came, not for a politician.
Can you do me one quick favor?
What?
I want to move back to California. My wife is on the fence. Can you say Amanda?
What? Amanda?
Make-
Where's the camera? Amanda, come back. I mean, this is what, Amanda, all you have to do is read Horace Greeley in 1850. Go west, Amanda, go west.
Thank you. Thank you.